Well, that's fine.
Hello.
So good to see you. Did you arrange for this weather?
No.
Well, whoever did it just fine.
Yeah,
I just
it's
thought
perfect.
the sun was
It's
out and
nice.
it was just
This looks like
lovely.
it's from Guatemala.
It is. That's a Guatemala colt. My daughter got that for me.
Oh,
So, how are you feeling? Good. Good.
you're good.
Yes. I worry about you.
Oh, you do?
I was just telling this lady that on September 17th I'm going to be on the Studs Turbo show. He has a program in Chicago. And he's writing a book now on elderly people in the United States and some of the work and things that they're doing. I'm going to tell him about you, and it might be that you would be interested in talking to him at some point in time. I'm not sure how far along in the book that he is, but he... have you ever read any of his books?
Yes, yeah.
He wrote The Great War, The Good War,
The Good War.
Working in America.
Yeah.
That was a book, I guess, that was used as a textbook in some of the schools. And The Great Divide. And in that one, he had talked about our plowshare action.
Yeah.
So he's a person that's very concerned and has a wonderful way of just bringing out what the individual has to say about it. And so it's really a record from the heart. It's not an author thinking of it. It's what we know and how we feel. So anyway, I want to tell them about you.
You better eat your supper before it gets cold.
That was the children's. The children loved that.
Oh.
Yes.
But
I did want to ask you too, Helen, what would you like to say?
Well, that I hope that the work for peace and justice continues, that people will carry on. There's a greater need now than ever to resist militarism. The danger hasn't gone away, even though the Cold War is over. There's still a threat of using military might every time there's a problem. The first solution seems to be to use the military. And we should learn to use our psychology and our knowledge, our education, for problem solving and for conflict resolution in nations as well as in schools and in families. The first thing we should be doing is talking to one another, and nations talk to one another and resolve their differences without thinking they have to fight and kill people to solve their problems.
You think we had to go to war in the Persian Gulf? Did we need to do it?
Yeah, that's what we seem to think, but that's not the right way.
No, it's not the right way, but do you think in that case that we had to do it? Because everybody's seeming to say now, well, we had to do that because we had to stop aggression.
But we don't have to. We don't have to. We can talk and negotiate and
I
solve
understand
our
we didn't
problems.
even use the United Nations method or the process of what was it called? Cutting off the
sanctions?
supplies.
Sanctions.
Yes. That we didn't even properly
we didn't
use
want
that.
to. No, I didn't want to.
Well, some people have replied that we did use the sanctions, and the sanctions didn't work. They never would have worked. We would have still been using sanctions, and he would have been in Kuwait, and he wouldn't have gotten out. So,
Well, what about that, Jean and Helen?
Oh, I thoroughly disagree with that.
what do you think
These
we should have
sanctions,
done? What do you think we should have done
Do you
instead of going
think
to
that
war?
we should stop aggression wherever we see it with more aggression? I don't think so. I personally feel that in any country that we look at, if you want to talk about Kuwait, would we like to see a democracy there? They have a horrible government there. They still have a horrible government there. They will continue to have a horrible government there. Do you think we should go in and bomb Kuwait because they're not acting democratically? I don't think so. I don't think it's any of our business. And we have over 170,000 children that are dead with our bombing in Iraq to stop aggression. Remember that we had to stop aggression. So it seems to me that we were extremely aggressive. It seems to me that to this day we are being aggressive. We have continued the sanctions. Those people have no water, they have no sanitation, they have no medicine. Thanks to us, because we're holding on to those sanctions. We want, well, I guess the president says that we want to get rid of Saddam Hussein. I don't think they really do. I think they have oil interests there that we have. Now we're able to keep an army base there, you know, for the protection of, I don't know, the Kuwaiti people or whatever. But we've always wanted to get into the Middle East with our military so that if there's any, quote, aggression, we can always be there to settle it and then ensure our own oil supplies. And I don't think that the oil supplies are that important. I think that we would have to do without. You know, it's...
For one thing, we could use more money for alternative sources of energy.
Of course.
Safe.
Of course.
Less expensive in the long run.
We live 15 miles away from Palisades in Bloomingdale, and that plant, I guess, has been online for 30 years. Right now, they have all of the water pools that they had for keeping the spent fuel rods are filled up. And so they're going to be using concrete casks to put these spent fuel rods in. This is a tremendous danger. It's right on Lake Michigan. And the plant itself is the same plant that was the same design as it was used at 3 Mile Island. They're going to be souping up energy needs. That plant is going to be putting out more energy than it has, and there's a great deal of concern by the environmentalists that there just simply is not enough. That these things are brittle, and they're just very afraid that this stress will cause another tragedy.
Did you say this is Palisades?
Palisades,
Palisades,
yeah. It's near Covert, Michigan. It's right on Lake Michigan.
And it's 7 miles from Grand Rapids, and we are downwind.
Of course.
I thought they were going to deactivate those older ones. Aren't they going to deactivate that one? Not that one.
No, the people are
till they have
protesting.
to.
I think our work is just beginning, ladies.
Yes. Yes.
There are so many areas that are just horrible. Yes. So, every year I'm in, it'll be another 30,000. So I told the judge in a letter one time, I said, you know, if you're that interested, or if you are interested in saving the government some money, why don't you pay it yourself? Well, he didn't even answer me. The guy has no sense of humor.
Okay.
Well, I'm Jackie Hudson. I'm with the Michigan Faith and Resistance, and we are here to bid farewell to Sister Helen. She's on her way to jail for a 6-month jail term for an Easter morning action at Woodsmith Air Force Base. So we have all the holidays that she's going to be missing. We have made cards for her in advance, and we're just here to be with her. She leaves tomorrow morning. So
That's cake.
Thank you.
So I figured it was.
hey, how are you, Logan?
Figured it was.
Those are nachos.
I'm not sentenced yet. I'm the end. I can't keep track of them.
When I was in grad school, they had a magazine section on the second floor.
So I just.
These are cards for all the occasions that Helen will miss in 6 months of jail sentence.
right.
You guys say wood.
Oh, he's taking the signs down now.
Stop doing war.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Very good.
And we hope you don't go to church.
Okay, thank you.
Happening to me. Let's see, I was released from incarceration 2 weeks ago today in the Macomb County Jail, where I served 6 weeks. I was in good company with Sister Elizabeth LaForest, who is a Sister of Mercy, and she'd been sentenced to 21 days for her peace activities, and also with Luella Bassett, age 72, another Episcopal person from Royal Oak, and she will be released tomorrow. She was serving a 60-day sentence for her, and we were all arrested at the same time.
And what was your crime?
We walked across the snow fence at Wordsmith Air Force Base in protest to the nuclear arms race at that time. We were still trying to outspend the Soviet Union for nuclear weapons. We are all still faithfully resistant to our government that continues to build nuclear weapons and test nuclear weapons. We still are building the Star Wars system, and we've tested 4 nuclear weapons this year at the Nevada test site at a cost of $200 million, which were just blown up out there. And so we feel that we must continue to resist this type of expense.
Sunny D. Please try, come back. There are places just like at the best of restaurants. You just start with a clean one. When you start on your second trip or third, whatever. But come and feel free.
Right?
It's wonderful to see so many of you out here. And so many of you showing your support for Sister Helen. And
Where are you guys going?
something when you go over. And it's on any Saturday or Sunday. And it is open as far as you can bring snacks, or you can bring a picnic lunch, or whatever. The visiting is indoors, but you can bring food in or snacks in to enjoy something with her when you go. There is no contact by telephone, however. They will not allow you to speak by phone unless Sister calls you collect. Then she is allowed to call out, but no one is allowed to call in. So that is another stipulation. And if you need directions on how to get there, again, I would suggest that you call the Institute for Global Education. We do have a map of Saginaw there and explicit directions on how to arrive at the Arete Center. Those of you who have her address might just want to venture over there on your own. It's right downtown, so it's very simple to find. But I just want to express a sincere thank you for coming this evening, for enjoying each other's company, and for showing the support for Sister Helen. Thank you very much, and let's give ourselves a big yes. Julia?
If she has too much company, will they be mean to her?
No, they will not be mean to her if she has too much company. We have been in contact with the director of the center, and she seems very reasonable. Sister Ardith Platty and Sister Elizabeth Walters and Father Peter Doherty have already been there and have experienced the place and have found it to be, no problem with visitors or mail. There's no problem with an overabundance. Too much mail is not too much. No, she will not be allowed out for weekends. No. It will be 6 months, so it's a little more than 150 days.
That's great.
Well, federal prisoners are usually not given good time unless their sentence is over 1 year. Federal prisoners serve their entire time as the usual process is that. That came out with the new drug law sentencing. We're getting tougher
Get along here.
4 years and 1 month.
Really?
Yeah.
When do we ever catch up on that?
Tell us who you are and
He's not confused.
Jean Gump. I'm one of the silo plowshares. And we did our action on Good Friday in 1986. And I was incarcerated shortly thereafter.
as I understand, you pounded away at the lids of some silos.
Yes.
And even the Air Force said that you did what? No more than $125 worth of damage or something like that.
The reason that I'm going to be recalled back to prison is that I'm refusing to pay the restitution. The restitution is $424.48. And at the time of the sentencing, the judge said, for your crime, you are going to have to go to the prison for 8 years. He said, however, if you agree to pay the restitution, you will only have to go to prison for 4 years. And each of my co-defendants said, no, we will not pay the restitution.
That's great to hear that.
It would be very horrible at this time, and this is why because I hadn't paid the restitution, and I'm still not going to pay it. They're very concerned about this $424, and since I was prepared to serve 8 years in prison rather than pay the Air Force that money, I'm on a 5-year probation now. They're calling it in, and I'm still not going to pay it. So the likelihood is that I will serve the remainder of this 5-year probation in the penitentiary.
Where were you when you did it? Other prison time?
Alderson, West Virginia is a federal prison for women.
That's not even near where you live.
Nowhere. No, they almost invariably on those kinds of cases try to make it difficult for people to be near their home and their family. I have 12 children, and it was a hardship for people to come, and I was never allowed a furlough in all the while I was in because I wouldn't pay the restitution. And 4 weeks before I was to be released, my brother died of Agent Orange. He was a Vietnam veteran, and because I wouldn't pay the restitution, I was not allowed to go to my brother's funeral. This was just 4 weeks before my release. And there were many calls that came in. People had contacted their congressmen and senators and stuff. And so the warden backed off, and he said that I would be able to make an escorted trip to the funeral. Now, an escorted trip for the uninitiated is pretty horrendous. They take you from the federal prison in handcuffs and shackles. You pay for your guards' airplane fare, your own airplane fare. When you get to your destination, the guard will put you in the local jail. In this case, it would have been in the Joliet prison or jail. And then the guard we pay for their hotel rooms and so on and so forth. Then he would take me to the wake in shackles for a while in the evening. Then I would go back to the jail, stay there all night, and then the next morning I would be allowed to go to the funeral. It would have cost me over $3,000. So it's just horrible.
Now, are
so
you a violent person? Or did they have
no, as a
something
matter
to
of
do with
fact, well, I'm a pacifist. But as a matter of fact, I had done a documentary. The German television people were interested in our story. And one of the questions the moderator asked was, do you consider yourself a threat to the United States government? And I said, absolutely. Anyone who is a proponent of nonviolence is a threat to their government. Almost everything that our government does is violent. We have over 1 million people in prisons now. It's growing every day. We have the death penalty. We're one of 3 nations in the world that have the death penalty. And it seems that I really think that the willingness to build, deploy, and use nuclear weapons is the taproot of all the violence in this country, and it is also anything else is insignificant in the moral issue as far as I'm concerned. I think that we are almost a morally bankrupt country because we do think that given this kind of a reason or that kind of a threat or something, nuclear weapons would be an option that we have reserved for ourselves. And when we as a people decide that is not an option, it doesn't qualify under international law, it certainly doesn't qualify under human law and under God's law, I think it's a horrendous sin. So we take sometimes rather drastic actions to point up the seriousness of this kind of
And you told the
problem.
Germans all that, right?
Oh, sure.
I mean,
yeah.
when they interviewed
Well,
you,
it
said
was
about the same thing.
Yeah, it was rather interesting with the Germans. Friends of mine who had preceded us on the silos, one woman got 18 years.
Ooh.
And the judges, under a Judge Ulf Panzer, wrote to Judge Bartlett, who was the sentencing judge, and said, with 500 signatures of other jurists, other judges in West Germany at the time, saying how horrendous this sentence was for a protest. And people throughout the world have looked at these kinds of sentences and have been just absolutely appalled that they would, that they're as heavy as they are. I think Helen's is a classic case, a person who was 82 years old, that they are going to, the people who that are at Arafe are doing what I would call hard labor. They're working for the sanitation department of Saginaw, and if somebody has a mattress they want to get rid of, these people come out and take it off their porch. I cannot conceive of that kind of punishment for a person, first of all, with her credentials, and secondly, her age. And I think this is a very good tribute to see so many people out here. Many of these people would not consider doing an act of civil disobedience, but a lot of our country was built on it. It was people who knew that the government was acting immorally, certainly with slavery, the Boston Tea Party, and other things like that.
People that took the slaves and sent them on the Underground Railway were all disobeying the law.
They were all criminals.
You bet.
That's right.
That's right. I was against the law then.
So the law is not necessarily sacred.
No, absolutely
not. Sometimes we have to say, because, my own thinking on it is that the law is there to protect nuclear weapons. And if we have a nuclear war, it will be legal. Okay? I don't think it'll be moral. I think it'll be legal. So the public has to say no. And of course, the pollution and the devastation that it causes to the earth if they're never used. These silos that we entered were cared for in I know, there are gods of metal. And they were manicured and tended to better than our people are. And it is a priority of the government. And at the trial, the prosecuting attorney often said, you did injury to property. And I always think in terms of injury as having something to do with a bee sting or a broken arm. And I hardly think that a piece of concrete experiences injury. But they use these words to kind of excite the jury. These are people that do injury. Hammering on concrete, injury. And of course, the other is true too. During the Gulf War, they spoke of collateral damage.
Yes.
Collateral damage, we're talking about 170,000 children that are dead. That's called collateral damage. And we don't even know because that isn't important. How many people did we kill with our smart rounds? But those were not our kind of people. Those were Iraqi people. Those are human beings.
Can I ask
And we
you
have
a
to
question?
question
Are you a Mennonite?
No. Roman Catholic.
Are you, really? I just wondered.
Are you aware of the fact that the Catholics in Detroit were the ones that were behind the repeal of the death penalty in Michigan originally?
No, I didn't know that.
Well,
we cannot allow our government to have the authority to kill people in our name.
It's closely related to our concept of slavery. We don't believe in slavery as it was before, but we still believe in legalized slavery.
Well, we're going to have it now when Helen DeValley, she's going in for hard labor, okay? The jobs that she's going to be doing with the sanitation department in Saginaw, it is, and I'm sure there's unemployment in Saginaw. I'm sure they could get teenage people to do the kind of work that they're doing, getting free from her and the others. You know, Jackie Hudson will be going soon. And Sister Liz Walters is there now, as is Sister Arda Platty, and Father Peter Doherty. So they're all doing hard labor now. And